Hi, welcome to My Favorite Mistake. I'm your host, Mark Graban. Our guest today is Emily Aborn. She is a small business copywriter, speaker, and host of the podcast called Small Business Casual. Emily helps entrepreneurs bring clarity, creativity, and authenticity to their marketing, drawing on more than a decade of experience running both brick and mortar and online businesses. She's worked with thousands of people across more than 100 industries, helping them find their voice and build stronger connections. And when she's not writing or podcasting, she enjoys reading, word games, and hiking with her husband, Jason. So, Emily, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Mark. I'm doing great.
We'll probably, we'll talk about the podcast. We'll talk about copywriting. Do you have a favorite word game? Is it Wordle? Is it something else?
Oh, yes, all of the above. Wordle, spelling bee, connections. I'm into pips now, which is not words, it's numbers, but still. I got to get all my New York Times games.
Yeah, I've kind of gotten out of the habit of those connections. Boy, that one sure is frustrating more than you think
Mm.
it might be, right? They
I
throw,
have like strong pattern recognition, so I
Mhm.
really love it.
But I recognize the wrong pattern. That's where they
Yeah.
trip you up,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, they do trick you. Yes.
Have you ever gotten the magic one guess, correct answer on Wordle?
Yes, one time and I screenshotted it and saved it. I think it was the word pearl because I was
Mm,
thinking about olives. Yes.
that's a good starting guest word. So I've never done that. So that's good to know. Congratulations. So there's a lot we can talk about, Emily, but as we always do here, we'll start with the key question. What's your favorite mistake?
All right. I've been thinking long and hard about this. My favorite mistake was starting a business that made sense on paper.
Uh, so tell us more about that.
Okay.
What was the business
So,
and why did it make sense, right? You wouldn't have started it if you didn't think it made sense.
exactly. So, in my bio, you had shared that I have owned a brick and mortar. And the reason that kind of came to be was I went to school for health education and nutrition. And
Mm,
kind of my goal with doing that was that I wanted to be a community health educator. I was kind of like in the personal coaching sphere for health coaching before
mhm,
that was really like a thing. It was just when it was just starting to kind of happen. And I found my way into working for chiropractic offices and gyms and all sorts of different people in the health industry, but it was just like a rambly road. And eventually I ended up living in North Carolina for like a little period of time. And I found myself working for this organic mattress store. So they sold basically bedding and mattresses that were like non-toxic. So
mhm.
no formaldehydes, no off-gassing, things like that. So I worked with them for about a year and a half and I was like their marketing person and just kind of general admin and did some of their sales and things. And it was in working for them. I'm like, this is a great business model. Like the revenue makes so much sense on paper. I liked selling the product because I believed in it.
Mhm,
And I was like, I could do this better. I could make this
mhm.
store cozier and better and like decorated more and make it just have these real customer service touches and things like that. So my husband and I relocated back up here to New Hampshire, where we're both from this area. And we relocated, and I found myself working for yet another chiropractor. And I'm like, I have always wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So I just needed that thing, that business idea that like it was going to work. And I sat down with him. I'm like, I can show you all the numbers for how this business makes
Mhm,
sense. And he's like, all right, let's do it. Like, so we decide we're going to open our own version of the store that I had worked in. I didn't really love working in that mattress store
mhm,
in North Carolina. Like, it was boring that people are not flocking to an organic mattress store like they would be a normal one. It's just
mhm.
the market, it's slower and you just spend a lot of time kind of sitting in there bored and by
Yeah.
yourself. So I already sort of knew that I didn't like it, but it made so much sense on paper. And I was like, I have to use my health education degree
Mhm,
and this makes sense. And this is how I'm going to get myself into the entrepreneurial space. That was my kind of mistake, so to speak.
mhm.
And I know that you asked kind of what came out of it and things like that. So I'll let you take the ball from
Cool.
there.
Okay. So, I mean, and yeah, we can, there's more to the story and we'll unpack that. But you says, you said it made sense on paper. I mean, that store in North Carolina was successful.
Yes, they were profitable, and so was ours, actually.
Yeah.
So we had all the kind of numbers to present to the bank. We got a great bank loan and redid the whole entire building and things
Yeah.
like that. So we did it all correctly, like
Yeah.
business plan in hand, logo, website, all the
Yeah.
things.
Okay. So before we get back into the story, though, I'm just going to comment. You've got me worried about my mattress.
Oh yeah, don't Google it. Do not Google
Oh
it.
boy. Um, okay. Well, I'm okay. I probably will. But I was going to ask though, it's just around copywriting, and it seemed like that would be either a challenge or an opportunity. Like, do you focus on the advantages of organic mattresses, or is there a bit of a fear factor to tap into? Like, do you go negative against big mattress? I don't know.
Yeah, I think no, I'll tell you what, knowing what I think I know now, I would have gone more to the advantages, but
Mhm,
then I did use a lot of fear-based selling and
mhm,
pain point marketing
mhm.
because and to be fair, a lot of people have like actual chemical sensitivities
Right.
and so they were having some sort of reaction that led them to find the store in the first place. So,
Mhm.
some people were already kind of like there with the problem solution symptom awareness and
Yeah.
then some people I had to like show them the problem, right?
Yeah. So what happened after opening? I mean, you said it was profitable. It got off to a decent start, it seems.
Yeah, so we were in business for 4.5 years, I think, and it was like, I don't think either of us were really in our sweet spot, we weren't really enjoying it. I wasn't wildly like, you just kind of find yourself saying the same exact thing every single day, day in
Yeah.
and day out, and I spent a lot of time by myself. Now, looking back on it, I'm like, I so wish I had, like, taken a course online or, like,
Mhm.
I could have read a million books.
Sure.
But I didn't. I spent a lot of time writing and a lot of time, like, blogging for the business and doing
Sure.
marketing because I just liked that. That was,
Mhm.
like, my favorite part of owning the business.
Yeah.
My husband did the deliveries, and so I would do, like, the logistics and the front-facing stuff, and then he would deliver the actual beds, and he
Mhm.
wasn't over the moon about that either. Like, we just weren't really happy with this whole thing we had built and created and put all of our time and energy into. So 4.5 years in, the market was kind of changing a little bit. There was a lot of bed in the box stuff coming up.
Right.
And so people were definitely going towards that more. And we kind of, I sat down with a mentor at the time, an advisor, and we looked at like what it would look like to sell the business
Mhm.
and what our options were basically. So in that process, she had me sit down and make a list of my own and say, well, first she said to me, you need to get out of your store, stop hiding behind Facebook and
Mhm.
sending emails out, and go out and actually meet people and like make connections. So that was a huge game-changing piece of advice, which is
Mhm.
part of why my this is my favorite mistake.
Sure. Uh-huh. Yeah.
So that was number 1, and then the second thing she asked me to do was sit down and really think about because I loved owning a business, I just didn't love owning necessarily this business
Ah.
or
Mhm.
being trapped in this business and
Mhm.
having that, like, place I had to go every single day.
Yeah.
So I sat down and made a list of everything I really loved to do in my business. And then I just started putting it out there for other entrepreneurs and business owners that I would meet through finally getting out of my store and meeting people. And I would be like, hey, do you want help with your social media? Do you want help with your newsletter? Do you want help with your website copy? Like, what do you need?
Mhm.
Do you want help writing thank you cards to your clients? Like, I would help people with all of that kind of stuff. So that's how I started accidentally
Yeah.
with something that didn't look good on paper. I accidentally started my business that I have now while we were liquidating and closing down the store. So that we didn't end up selling. We had a
Mhm.
we had a buyer on the line. We actually had 2, I think, interested and they fell through. So we were like, well, we're still going to go through with our plan of closing and
Yeah.
we're just going to kind of get rid of everything we have and call it a day.
But I'm glad that opened doors for you into, the next business, the next opportunities. I mean, looking back, I mean, I hear 2 elements, and maybe it was all combined, like the repetitiveness. It sounds like you got bored with the repetitiveness, and maybe is there a lesson around it being better if you have a passion around the product that you're selling? That
Yeah,
that
I
that
think
that
so.
mattress discussions and the same discussion over and over might not be as boring if you have a more of a passion.
Yeah, I think so. And I also think for some reason, and probably some people would find it invigorating to have to be somewhere every day.
Yeah.
I just didn't like that. Like, and I've never liked that for anybody I've worked with. That's always been like, I don't want to go if I don't want to go. But
Right.
when you have a shop, you have to go. You have to be there. And a lot and sometimes you have to be there off hours.
Mhm.
People would make appointments and things like that. So yeah, and also working with my husband, we both agree on this. I'm not like talking behind his back. It was really challenging for our relationship. It was like
Mhm.
all we ever talked about, and we didn't always see eye to eye on some of the decisions that we had to make, to get the sale or whatever. So it was really hard, and I didn't like seeing him unhappy. He didn't like seeing me unhappy, and it's like, well, we're both in this together, so we can actually choose a different path.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's good that you work that out, both, the business and, in personal. I've had other guests in the podcast talking about that stress of having a business together with the spouse. That's, not an uncommon challenge, and it doesn't always work out well for people. So I'm glad that was a different outcome here with your story. One other thing, you're making me think about were the comments about, starting the store and having to be there all the time. I think probably the first book I ever read about entrepreneurship, like over 20 years ago, it's called The E-Myth. Do you know?
Oh yeah, yes.
And the difference between having a business that gives you freedom to step away versus a business that has you really trapped in a full-time job where you
Yeah.
can't go on vacation because you're tied to the job. And it sounds like, you maybe inadvertently learned that lesson of having something that you can step away from or starting something that allows you to scale and hire other people so you can have the freedom.
Yeah, so agreed. Now literally all I need, I mean, I could go across country
Yeah.
with my whole entire business. So all I need is my podcast mic and my laptop.
Yeah, it's certainly good to have that kind of freedom, whether we call ourselves a digital nomad
Yeah.
or just somebody with flexibility, right? So, I'd love to talk about the work that you do and the lessons you've learned when it comes to copywriting and marketing. Is there something kind of rises to the top if I were to ask about common marketing mistakes, messaging
Mm.
mistakes, copywriting mistakes, branding mistakes? What's something that's really common that people make or even repeat?
Okay, let me give you 3.
Oh, all
So
right.
first one I think is just thinking that marketing is social media and
Mhm,
sending emails,
mhm,
and that could not be further from the truth. Like, I like to think of marketing as this whole kind of pie, like, it's all these little pieces and different things that you're doing to fill out that pie. So, for example, you and I doing this podcast right now, I'm not even probably going to like, I don't even need to talk about my business. It does not that doesn't matter to me, but that's part of my marketing pie, just me getting to
mhm,
connect with you and
mhm,
having a conversation with you. And I think people discount that a lot. They discount the conversations, they discount the collaboration. Like when you share with me the assets from today's episode, I'm then going to also reshare that, right? So
mhm.
I'm helping you kind of amplify your message. You're helping me amplify my message. We're
Or
collaborating to
you might be
create
able to help me
something.
improve my message.
Yes, yes. So we're collaborating. Yes, exactly. And you help me get clarity on the one I'm trying to share. So we're collaborating to create something that doesn't exist yet. And we're making it like better than we could have on our own.
Yeah.
So there is real power in that. And I think even rewinding to myself in the store, like I just thought marketing was like putting ads in the paper and the billboard I really wanted to get and, putting my social media out there and sending emails. And
Mhm,
there's just so much more in the world of marketing. And I think it just takes thinking a little bit out of the box on
mhm.
what other things you have at your disposal to talk about your business.
Yeah.
The second mistake I would say is not even really knowing who your clients are.
Mhm,
Now, I go back and forth on niching versus not niching, but you do have to understand where they're at in the decision-making process. So like I said, and you brought this up, which was a great point. Sometimes people would come to the mattress store and have no idea what I was talking about, like what I was selling or why they needed this product. So I have to know what stage of their purchasing journey they're at. Like they need to know the problem before I can offer them the solution.
Sure.
And then other people would come in, they're having symptoms, they know exactly what they want. And now all I have to do is be like, here's the
Like
solution,
they've
right?
Googled New Hampshire
Yes.
organic bed mattress and they found you.
Yes, and it's important to know what your clients look at or look like at those different stages
Mhm.
because you're gonna talk to them differently depending on
Mm,
where they're kind of interacting with you.
yeah.
And then the third one, like, in addition to not knowing who your clients are, it's just not caring or talking to them. Like,
Mhm.
I've seen and I'm sure you've seen this too. You just see podcast pitching is a great example of it, where they just send you all about them, and you're like,
Yeah.
"Great, and what about my show?
Well,
What
and
about
it's a
me?"
super generic pitch usually that's just
Yeah,
blasted out really
yeah,
wildly, and I tend to ignore most of those unless somebody reaches out and doing a mail merge of insert
yeah,
a show here, that doesn't fool anybody as opposed
yeah.
to saying, "Look, I've got a guest who would love to come on and talk about their favorite mistake and blah, blah, blah," and yeah, that's more effective marketing if someone's marketing a potential guest.
Yeah. My favorite is when they say they love my interview style, and I'm like, "That's funny because I don't have guests." They'll say,
Oh,
"I love how you ask your guests such deep
sorry.
questions," and I'm like, "Well, I don't have any, so
Yeah.
yes, I do ask myself some good questions, don't I?"
Well, back to your first point, I mean, how many of these firms think marketing their podcast guests is just about these email blasts? And
Yeah,
there's a lot of
yeah,
automation. I mean, if our email address is exposed in the RSS feed of our podcast, which it usually is, it
yeah,
just gets scraped and put into this mega database. And
yeah,
like any spam, it costs them virtually nothing to send out an additional message. I know they don't like to be called spam, but it's
right.
like spam.
And that's I mean, to that exact point, you and I use a collaborative tool called Podmatch, and I
Mhm,
think Podmatch itself just fosters a spirit of collaboration. Like, the way they've set that up, it really does, I think, create you being like, "Okay, I have to personalize this a bit. I'm gonna take time and
mhm.
listen to Mark's podcast, make sure I like him, make sure I like what his show is about before I even send you a message." So and I'm sure you get spam through there too, but I'm just saying
Yeah,
it's at least a little bit more collaborative in nature.
yeah.
But yeah, people can really and I sadly I see it on a lot of websites. They just want to make it about themselves and they're really missing the mark on talking to their actual clients. And you can be like I would say especially now with the rise of AI more than ever before, you can be more human, you can be more conversational, you can be a little bit if you're like, whatever your personality is, silly, buttoned up, a little quirky, like real, dry, like, whatever your personality is, you wanna be that in your website copy, and you
Mhm.
wanna talk to somebody on your website like you're talking to a human being because
Yeah,
you are.
yeah,
There's one person that you are speaking to when they come onto your website. Now, there are some, rules of the road sort of or like best practices, of
right.
course, like you're going to have a tagline and things like that, but my website, I like to use it just as an example of here's what I could do for somebody else
Mhm.
because I
Yeah,
made it very conversational. I'm like, if I'm going to have this thing,
yeah,
it's just going to be a conversation.
yeah, and it's a fascinating point you bring up. I mean, it sounds like a real conundrum of being more human using AI tools or being more yourself because, I think some people maybe don't know that with tools like ChatGPT, at least, with the paid subscription, maybe you can't do this with the free version, but you can give ChatGPT all kinds of instructions
Mhm.
about the tone and personality to use, and I mean, there's a lot of things you can do if you're using it to try to help create anything from, podcast show notes or, refreshing marketing messaging on a page. You don't have to get just the generic what ChatGPT or whatever tool thinks is right for the average person.
Right. Yeah, I have some strong thoughts on those tools.
Well,
'Cause I still don't think they get it quite yet, like, I just have yet to see it hit the mark perfectly,
uh,
unless it's a bigger like, unless it's a You know what? It might be okay if it's like a bigger business or a bigger brand or it's like not a person. But I think when it does come to that personal voice, you do lose a little bit of something when you outsource your voice to the tool.
Sure. Yeah, and I think, you talked earlier about collaboration. I think of, AI tools as being something to collaborate and bounce things back and forth with, which is
Agreed.
different than just outsourcing
Yes,
altogether.
agreed.
There's some trivial tasks where, okay, fine, outsource.
Yeah.
It's okay to outsource, but the things that are most important to the business, or you probably don't want to ask it to say, have the tone of the Wendy's social media account, or
Yeah.
that like, somehow like that works for Wendy's to be a little bit snide or funny or what have you. I don't know I don't know how that fits into the brand. I guess they've decided, but it might be a mistake for a big, serious, buttoned up company to try to copy that
Exactly.
same tone. Oh, it was successful for Wendy's. So
Yeah,
our entire
exactly.
company is going to be sassy. Was the word I was
Yeah.
looking for.
And there's no wrong, like you said, it works for Wendy's. So it really is about what is the brand voice of your company, but then also what are your clients looking for? And you kind of have to bridge those two things. Like,
Yeah,
I'm not going to, there are places where I'm going to be a little more professional than I would be in just with my best friend because
right.
this is my business, so I have to put that business face forward. So,
Mhm.
or like my niece or something, right? Like I'm going to talk to her differently than I'm going to talk to a client.
Yeah. I had one other question. This is going back into the mattress business. Just wanted to explore maybe an example of getting out from behind the computer. As much as content marketing, internet marketing can be really useful. When you talk about getting out there and meeting people, like one connection that seems to make sense in my head is like, who might be interested in learning about organic mattresses? Something like people at the farmers market. Like, was that
Which I
something that
Yeah,
you?
we did that.
Yeah,
We did, like, health and wellness expos. When she told me that, she was right, that mentor, she was right. I
yeah,
didn't leave my store much, and I started to she specifically recommended, like, go meet people that are like-minded in your field and, that you could collaborate with, essentially. And I was like, "You know what? I will meet everyone. I will meet everyone." So I did. I really made it my goal to just connect with as many small local businesses as I possibly could. And I think that doing that, like, it didn't just make me the mattress lady, it then made me a resource that was able to connect other people to, like, "Oh, you need a virtual assistant? I know a virtual
mhm,
assistant. You need this kind of service? I know this person." So that was some of the best advice I ever got. I think really good advice if you're looking to just hone in on that networking skill or collaboration skill is to focus on people like website designers and copywriters. They make a great match.
uh-huh,
Podcasters and producers, great match. There's some no-brainers. So, like, think about what that looks like for your own industry and say, like an interior designer, they would wanna be talking to the hardware store, the
mhm,
paint company, the granite company, like, all of those I could go on and on.
yeah, yeah,
But all of those different parts and pieces that you would be interacting with and or recommending to your customers as solutions, you wanna be connecting with those people because you wanna be the first person they think of when they're like, "Oh, you need new plumbing? I know a guy," right?
mhm, yeah. So, I mean, I love how you turned a lot of the lessons learned from that business into, the way you help companies and work with people today. Is there an example of, back to this point you made about understanding not just who your clients are, but where they are in the buying process? That's something that sounds like it would help a lot of other businesses. Do you have an example that comes to mind?
Sure. Yes, I focus a lot on problem aware, solution aware, symptom aware. So
Mhm.
there's a big difference. And that's something we kind of break down when we're like working on somebody's website. But I guess a tangible example I'll give you is one of the first questions I'll ask people when I'm doing like a discovery call with them is, "How did you hear about me?" And kind of what's going on, like ask them a little bit of background about their business and then like what's going on for you that prompted you to reach out to me. And that's where you get so much information about where they're at in that cycle. And it takes I think a lot of those kind of calls to start understanding the patterns, like the connections game,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
seeing where people are at in that process. And I hope that answered your question
Mhm.
about like
Yeah.
giving a specific example, but I do think that those like the actual words of your clients, the other way you can get them is when they write you reviews and testimonials.
Mhm.
So often in those reviews and testimonials, they'll say how they were feeling before, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, my back was hurting, my neck was hurting. And then I went and saw this massage therapist, and now I feel like I'm 20 again, right?
Yeah.
So they'll tell you what they were like, whether or not it was a pain that caused them to
Mhm.
reach out or they just wanted to feel good.
Yeah.
So those are some good examples, and you can be watching in different ways of how people use their language coming into your business to kind of reflect it back to them when you're putting your marketing stuff
Mhm.
out there.
Yeah. So, like, to me, problem awareness and solution awareness, that distinction, makes sense. Where, people might not recognize they have the problem, or they may know they have the problem, they don't know there's a solution out there. But tell us more about symptom awareness. Is that the difference between, like, in language I use around continuous improvement? We talk about, symptoms and then more like a root cause. Is that
Yeah.
similar connection?
Yes, yes, exactly. So, yes. So sometimes, let's say my back is hurting, or let's say I have a stomach pain, right? I have the symptoms, but I need to often go to the doctor and they like rule things out.
Mhm.
And so, actually, symptom awareness is one of the harder ones because what I see a lot of business owners do is they have the symptoms and they see an ad on Instagram, right? And the ad's like, download this quiz and freebie and enter to get coached by this $10,000 coach and your symptoms will go
Mhm.
away. But they're solving the wrong problem
Right.
because they didn't do the process of kind of elimination at the get-go. So I think as service providers, that's where you really can offer people something valuable. If somebody comes to me and they're having symptoms, and I'm like, sure, I can help you with that, but you're not ready for that yet. Like, you need to get to the root of the problem,
Right.
which is like, you need a new brand, or you really need, a website to begin with, right?
Yeah.
Before I could write anything for it. So, or there could be a number of different things going on, but it really does do a service to people when you look at their symptoms and you're like, I could be a solution for that, but they're not ready for that yet.
Mhm.
Sometimes we're not able to do that process of elimination on our own. And that's where like business collaboration comes in. Like, I
Yeah.
might ask my friends, this is my issue. What would you recommend I look for a solution to this problem? Like, what
Mhm.
are some places I can start? So that's how that was a great example of like saying you need to get to the root cause. Cause so often when we're having symptoms, you're like, I don't know. I'm just having headaches. Like, I don't
Right.
know what the problem is. I don't know what the solution is. I just know what I'm feeling.
Yeah. And taking Tylenol might make the headache go away right now,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it might not be addressing the root cause of frequent headaches. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, Emily, I want to ask one other question about back to marketing and communications. I get a lot of pitches about, repurposing content. I've got books, got podcasts. Sometimes one leads to another, or then, there's video and there's kind of, different pitches about helping you repurpose content. What's one mistake you see people making when they try to do that?
It's really a small one. Well, one is that they don't do it often enough.
Mhm.
But really, really a small one. No, I'm gonna give you 2.
Okay.
One is that you have a lot more to repurpose than you even think.
Mhm.
Like the website copy that you love and you're so proud of, that can also be repurposed. Like it's just sitting on your website doing, just living in one place.
Mhm.
But the other one I've seen is where people literally just copy and paste
Mhm.
verbatim either what was like, let's say they wrote a blog, or no, let's say they wrote an email and they just literally copy and paste like a piece of the email. Sometimes it works fine, but sometimes it's super out of context and they don't take the time to give the context. I had a business owner I used to like follow, and she would just copy and paste everything, say she was repurposing it, but it like did not make any sense
Mhm.
broken up like that.
Yeah.
And she would cross post it everywhere and call that repurposing. I'm like, that's just cross posting.
Yeah.
That's not repurposing. But so repurposing really does mean to make it new. And sometimes that comes with a little bit of massaging. Like sometimes you're gonna have to take I can't use the stories in my email in the exact same form that I shared them in my email in a social media post. It just doesn't work.
Mhm.
Like, sometimes the story was perfect for my podcast, it was perfect for my email, and I tried to bring it onto social, and I'm like, "Okay, first of all, I need, like, 90,000 characters in order to be able to tell this."
Yeah.
But it just doesn't work. Or the point I wanna make, it loses the context without the story. So, you sort of have to just think about the platform that you're repurposing to, make sure that it contextually makes sense, and then I say, after you got that locked in, repurpose to your heart's content, because there's a whole lot more of your content that you probably could be repurposing.
Yeah. And it seems like there's a clear distinction between just reusing and
Yes.
repurposing. There might be some refurbishment, or I'm trying to force other
Yeah.
words into that
Renewal,
renewal.
renewing,
That's a good one.
rejuvenation.
Blog rejuvenation of your service for somebody, maybe. So, Emily, would love to hear about your podcast more than the fact that you don't have guests. Tell us about Small Business Casual.
Yeah, so it did start as, content with character, and I actually rebranded it
Mm,
because I said to myself, I'm not here for content's sake. I really wanna help people build small businesses that they love, that they're passionate about, that don't feel like something they dread waking up to going to every single day. So it's about how to make your small business like feel really, really good to you, not just during your workday, but also throughout your life. So
mhm.
how can you keep it really, really sustainable? And I have had guests on some occasions, but they're usually like my best of friends who are
Yeah.
also entrepreneurs. So I that's why I say I don't take guests, I select guests.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it's different between being pitched of like, here's so and so, and they can talk about, the economic development of agrarian economies, and really, yeah, that professor might be brilliant, but I don't
Yeah.
care about that, and it
Yeah.
doesn't fit my theme, and no, thank you.
I get a lot for, like, dog treats, and I'm like, no, that won't work actually with small business. I mean, I love having your dog in your team photo,
Yeah.
but yeah, it really has given me some nice leg room for the podcast to be able to expand into, like, the 12 years of business experience that I've had. There's a lot I wanna be sharing that content just didn't kind of fit.
Yeah.
So I yeah. And I'll share one little sort of tip, or one way I make my podcasting really fun for myself is I will set up like a monthly, let's call it a theme for lack of a better word. So like October was October it. And November is like November, right?
Learn
So
how to
I'll
say
give my
no more often.
yeah, yes, exact I mean, that's a big strategy. That's a
Mhm.
business strategy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'll give myself a monthly theme, and for some reason, when I give myself guardrails like that, it actually opens up way more ideas for me,
Oh,
so then I can fill those buckets with kind of the outstanding ideas I have for my show. So, that's something I do that just it makes it easy so I don't overthink, because there's a million things we could all talk about at any
right.
given time,
Yeah.
and it just helps keep me kind of, like, on a track, and it also brings a nice level of cohesion to my podcast
Mhm.
so that when I am repurposing it, it's like, oh, she's kind of made sense all month long. Like it's
Yeah.
all sort of gone the same. I don't have to be like, what am I focusing on today? I just sort of focus on the same thing
Mhm.
in different ways throughout the month.
Yeah. You're probably more disciplined than I've been when I've been working on marketing related things of having an intentional content calendar. To a fault, I tend to be more just kind of what strikes me at the moment, and you cringed and you made a noise there. So tell me a little more. I realize that's a mistake, but I'd love to hear from you why.
I'm half cobbler's son. I had such a good system for I used to manage actually people's content and not just do the copywriting, but also like push it out for them. And I had such a good system for them, and it was like so beautiful, and I had all their content planned all the time, and I never ever did my own.
Uh,
And now I'm back and forth. Like I'm like sometimes I'm really good and sometimes I'm really terrible. I'm like the
yeah.
girl with the curl in the middle of her forehead in that poem. So, no, my
So
content calendar is not perfect at all.
what poem is that? I-
Oh, there's a
I-
poem that goes, "There was a girl with a curl in the middle of her forehead, and when she was good, and when she was bad, she was, like, really awful," or something.
um, So, one question about your podcast: Are you hitting different platforms and formats or repurposing? Right, when you think about doing video, whether that's YouTube or clips on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, how do you repurpose or put that content out in different places?
Yeah, I haven't taken to video yet. I mean, it's on YouTube, but I think it's just like the audio.
Mhm.
But I do love doing so I do a newsletter that goes along with my podcast episode. So I'll have kind of like like a side story that people in the podcast aren't usually getting. But you know what I've been loving is Substack. And
Yep.
I will take my podcast. Sometimes I go down like these research rabbit holes. Like I did one recently on the dark sides of AI.
Mhm.
And so I'll go down these research rabbit holes. Actually, you're featured in one about decision making,
Mhm.
how sometimes we think we're making a good decision
Mm.
and it can end up as a bad decision.
Mhm.
Sometimes we think we're making a bad decision and it can end up as a good decision. So, like, what makes a good decision good and what makes a bad decision bad? And I mention your show.
Yeah.
So I go down these research rabbit holes and I will take all the research that I've compiled for my episodes and put it in a new format on Substack, which allows me to have all this multimedia. Like
Yeah.
I can include pictures and clips of your show and like it's really exciting. So that's one way I've been repurposing through that. And then otherwise I just kind of use like quote graphics. But I'll
Yeah.
say this, and I hear this from a lot of podcasters, getting people from social media to your podcast is pretty challenging.
Mhm.
So that's why I kind of like to give just the information in different formats
Yeah.
because I'm not under any guise. I mean, I
Sure.
love when people jump over from social,
Mhm.
but it just doesn't happen as often as we would like. It really
Sure.
happens through you and I doing what we're doing, through giving the information out in different ways, people sharing your episodes, reviewing, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think there's something to be said to find podcast listeners by being a guest on other podcasts. So I will
Yeah.
encourage the listener if they have an interest in what Emily's been talking about and sharing and the small business casual podcast. If you're not driving, open up the podcast app and go and search and find, and there'll be a link in the show notes. So when it's safe to do so, go and check out
Well,
small
thank
business
you.
casual.
And I say the same for you, and I like, what I tell people when I recommend a show like yours is I'll say, "You don't have to stop being my listener, you can be Mark's listener and my listener. You
Yes.
get the best of both worlds."
Yeah.
So, that is the benefit of doing this, and people can if they're not into it, they don't have to stick around, we all can clean out our own podcast feed.
So Emily, maybe one last question here, if I can get a bonus mistake story out of you, because I've made a lot of mistakes as a podcaster. I bet we all have. I see you nodding. Is there a podcasting, hosting, or production mistake that comes to mind?
Well, I've forgotten to hit record on many occasions, but,
But
I
when you
think
when you
my
when you don't have a guest, that's not quite as traumatic. I've done
Right,
that
agreed,
before
agreed.
twice in about 20 years.
It's the worst. But no, I'll say this, when I first started, I just wasn't very confident in having my own voice,
Mhm.
and so I deferred a lot to my guests, and what that looked like was I just kinda read the questions formulaically, and then I would respond pretty generically with like, "Oh, I love that.
Mhm.
Oh, I love that.
Mhm.
I love that," and I just didn't like I said, I didn't really feel confident having the conversation. Like
Yeah.
that's one thing you're so good at is you really insert your own piece of the conversation as well. And I think that's the biggest mistake. And I could go back and be like, "Oh, I could have had so much more fun if I had like let the anxiety go a
Mhm.
little and just like opened up to like this is just a conversation I'm having with this person."
Yeah, that's how I like going about it. Even I'll lean into sometimes the moments of awkwardness
Yeah.
that happen, but that's better than being, like you said, too formulaic or too robotic. I enjoy that more as a host, and I enjoy that more as a guest. So, Emily, thank you for being the guest here with us today. Again, I'll put links in the show notes. Emily Aborn has been our guest. EmilyAborn.com is the website. And again, her podcast is Small Business Casual. So this has been fun. And thank you. Thanks for joining
Thank
us.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for letting me share my favorite mistake.
Yeah.